Professional serving community. TALKRADIO.NYC.
Hello, everyone. I'm Linda Marsanico. Welcome to the A Train to Sedona. The A Train to Sedona is also the name of a book I wrote, a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. In it, I share my failures, my successes. I wrote the book as a memoir to have my voice be heard, but also to inspire your journey. You can purchase a signed copy on lindamarsango.com on Buy the Book page, also at retail and bookstores. If you'd like to read the first 7 pages for free, go to amazon.com. I also have a free gift for you. It's called the Cheat Sheet for High Vibration Living. 7 exercises designed to help you keep your energy positive and high and in the present moment. And in this uncertain world, it's an essential for your toolkit. You can download a copy at lindamarsango.com. I have 2 disclaimers. One, that this broadcast does not establish a professional relationship. And 2, that the opinions expressed on this broadcast do not necessarily represent Talk Radio New York City. Today, I have on my show Dr. Enolia Harris Pedro. A native New Yorker, Enolia Harris Pedro is a respected grandmother, elder, and doctor, a modern-day medicine woman in energy medicine practicing in Africa. With decades of experience, she uses a holistic approach to guide individuals toward balanced health, integrating ancient traditions into modern wellness practices. Enolia offers classes and retreats on healing, self-mastery, dynamic meditations, and conscious mindset. Internationally recognized as a thought leader, Dr. Enolia Harris Pedro is an award-winning keynote speaker, author, global influencer, and coach, CEO of Enolia LLC, and Director of Operations for Vision Afrique Development. She is dedicated to youth advocacy, women's empowerment, and contributing to Africa. She holds an honorary doctorate in international peace ambassadorship from the United Nations and an ambassadorship for human rights from the World Assembly for Peace through Vision Afrique Development. Dr. Harris Pedro, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for that gracious introduction. I truly appreciate it. And it's so wonderful to be here, Linda.
You know, we have to tell our listeners that we go back almost 2 years now, Enolia.
Yes, we do.
That we met on Sarah's Gift of Healing TV. And I think it was May of 2023. And you had such difficulty with the Wi-Fi. You were coming in and out. And I thought to myself, what poise and dedication you had to just come back in a number of times.
Yes, and thank goodness since then my internet has gotten a lot better. But yes, it was a wonderful, wonderful time meeting. And today's conversation, which I co-hosted with Sarah Jane, was a wonderful, wonderful stint of time to be able to learn and develop my podcasting skills. So yes, I definitely, and I enjoyed meeting you so much.
It's likewise. I have a couple of questions for you. My first is, what are the influences from childhood and adolescence which bring you to where you are today?
That's a huge question. But the very first influence, we always have to look at who we came into the world with, our parents. And, I was close with both of my parents, but my mother and I had something very, very special. And it was in observances that I realized that we didn't always do everything the normal way. There were times when I would watch my mother and she just knew things. And I'm like, how did you do that? And she always shared with me that we have a gift. And as you grow up, you will develop yours. And don't ever let anyone have you hold your gift back. She never shared what that gift was. She never said how it came to be, what it's going to look like, or anything. I just remembered that moment. And so as I grew up, I lost my parents early because my parents had me very late in life. My mom had me at 48 years old. And so, by the time I was in college, I lost my father and I lost my mother in my early 30s. But I did a huge stint. I had incorporated what I was going to do for my career. I designed computer networks for a Fortune 500 company right out there in New York. And I designed computer networks and as a senior analyst starting. And I was probably halfway through my career, three-quarters through my career, when I had this longing in my heart, to wanting to know my heritage, wanting to know more. There had to be more to life than just this corporate thing that I was doing, because I felt like something was missing. So, I remember going to the Omega Center and in Rhinebeck, New York, and I went to the Omega Center to see the 13 Indigenous grandmothers. I was like, oh, sounds like a great thing. I got it as a Mother's Day present from my then husband and my two boys, because I have two boys. And, when I finished that weekend, it changed my life because I saw 13 women represented from all over the world, and they called themselves medicine women. And at the time, I didn't know what that was. But I saw them in prayer and in ceremony, incorporating and allowing us to participate with them. And I could feel the energy from a 4'2" Tibetan grandmother 100 yards away, as if she was sitting next to me, putting her hand on my stomach. That's how powerful it was. Mm. And I was like, there's something here that I don't understand, that I don't know. I need to know what this is. So I promised myself that before that actual week ended with them, I was going to meet somebody to teach me, because I needed to learn. I was compelled to learn. And it's interesting because it wasn't one of the 13 Indigenous, but it was one of the students of one of the 13 Indigenous. And I met grandmother Isabel Mawasaki, and she was actually the student of grandmother Margaret from the 13 Indigenous. And I found this confidence to go up to her and say, I would love for you to teach me. And she's like, okay, my girl, if you're very serious, what do you want to learn? And I hadn't thought about what I wanted to learn. I just knew I needed the confidence to go approach her. And I was like, pick something, herbalism. And she said, okay, well, if you're really serious, my girl, come up and see me sometime. And she hands me her card. And she lived in Warncliffe, Ontario. And if anyone wants to know where that was or where that is 6 hours north and about 5 hours straight west, an hour shy of Sault Ste. Marie, where Wisconsin, Michigan, and Canada all touch. So here I am. I was like, are you sure you want me to go? Because, you're inviting me, because I will show up. And 2 months later, I took the drive up. I met her. We spent the weekend together. She afforded me the opportunity to stay. And she said, if you're really serious about being taught, I hold a women's retreat. Let's have you work with us to create this women's retreat, and we'll go from there. And so that's what I did. I showed up with 22 women because I was ensuring that I was going to get taught. And that started a lifelong relationship. And that was it.
What a
That was,
story.
yeah.
So I'm wondering, remember when when you said that your mother had a gift and she told you you have this gift, is it related at all to what you experienced with the indigenous grandmothers?
It enhances it, yes. What I learned and what I first learned with grandmother Isabel Mawaski and then many other grandmothers and grandfathers, medicine men and medicine women, is that nature amplifies everything. Is that the more that we trust and believe within ourselves and withdraw within to look within, the more that it amplifies and shines through us. And to be in balance, to trust yourself, to afford that amplification to take place, and then to trust your intuition of what's coming through you, not necessarily judging what's coming out of you, but what's allowing and affording to come through you is everything. And that's how I live my life. That's how I live my life. So yes, it was an unbelievable teaching. And after meeting with grandmother Isabel Mawasaki, she opened the door to a great number of indigenous teachers that came into my life. Grandmother Shirley of the Lakota, grandfather Lynch Archuleta of the Yaqui Indians, grandmother Maria Resaburu of the Apache. Then I go to the Waiata in New Zealand. Then I go to the Sangomas in South Africa. I was initiated by the Quiros Indians of Peru. I was also initiated here in Africa, in Angola, with the Ovumbundu. So, and I'm not even naming everyone that I've actually encountered and studied with, but what a blessing.
Yes.
What a blessing. And I feel so grateful and so fortunate. And it's funny because it circles all the way back to Grandmother Isabel and Grandmother Isabel initiating me under the Ojibwe Nation as a grandmother myself.
I'm thinking of all the wisdom in the ancient traditions.
Mm,
And to
yeah.
have come through you brings me to my next question. You talked about nature. What is the role of spirituality in your life?
Spirituality, I don't even see it as a role. I see it as a way of life, a way of being. There is no separation between me and the divine and the creator. I don't care if you call it creator, God, Lord, however you refer to the creator. There is no separation. So it's the humanness within us that teaches us to doubt. It's the humanness within us that teaches us to second guess, to determine the human conditions by which we operate our lives. But what we have to remember is that we are energy beings shining through that human condition. And in shining through that human condition, it doesn't dictate how we should be. We shine through the roles that we engage with. So as a mother, as a auntie, as a sister, as a daughter, and as an employer, employee, or whatever role that I adapt, that energy being Enolia shines through it. And that energy being Enolia is connected to Creator and emanates through that, which is this container, and navigates through this thing that we call life.
Now, I'm going to ask you to pause there because we have a commercial break. Yet when we come back, I want to hear more about the shining through of what comes through you from nature, from all that connection. But for now, listeners, we are going to take a break, but do stay tuned. We have some exciting conversation.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on TalkRadio.NYC.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on TalkRadio.NYC at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on TalkRadio.NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona. I'm Linda Marsanico with my guest, Dr. Enolia Dr. Enolia Harris Pedro.
No, that's okay. For many people, I just got married, so that name change is happening. It's just taking place. So,
and I know you with the older name, so I have to translate in my mind. So please, Enolia, continue. You were describing yourself as having no separation with Creator, as having energy come through you.
Yeah, you know what it is that we don't know that we're missing the balance in our lives until we go to a place that actually brings it in. And then when you're outside every day, you feel it every day, and you're encompassing it every day, then you realize, why am I feeling this euphoria? Why is it so wonderful? And so I'll give you an example. You know, here I am, day to day New York, right? And doing what I usually do, but going to Northern Ontario and starting my day off in green grass trees, beautiful, fields everywhere, and being in those fields, and then hardly ever going in the house versus being in the house all the time. There's a difference. When I spent time, one of the best places I spent time was in the northern part of New Zealand. And every day I would get up, and every day I would go and venture out and learn different parts of the North Island, in the forest, everywhere with the Waitaha, and some out on my own. And I could feel the difference. It was just like being on a constant high, because your body is just so happy. There was never any pain. There was never any headaches. There wasn't any loud noises. There wasn't anything that engaged me that would just take me off of that bliss. And you don't realize that you can reach that until you're there.
Mm-hmm.
And so nature plays such a significant balance with us, because we are beings, we weren't born with homes and roofs over our head, and enclosures, right? We were born as human beings, and we were outdoors, and we foraged and everything else. We were made for outside. And Mother Earth, what she does is she recharges us. Yes. She recharges us. She brings that energy through us. When we're sad, she takes our woes from us. You cannot stay depressed or angry if you lay on the grass. Mm-hmm. Guaranteed. 30, 40 minutes into it, you're going to go, you can remember what you were angry about, but you won't be angry. You won't have the physical emotion of anger, because Mother Earth literally recharges us like a battery. And it takes the woes. The same thing can be said with the breath, fresh air. That's why when people go through clinically depressed times in their lives, the first thing they do is look at the room. Is it dark? Because you need the dark enclosure in order to maintain that energy. But if you go outside, sunlight, and fresh air and the ground, the earth, you can't maintain it.
Mm.
You cannot. So there's really something to say about how nature and the balance of what we are and who we are takes place when we're outside. So
It makes, sorry?
I hope that answers the question.
Oh, yes, it does. It makes me think of the Buddhist master Thich Nhat Hanh, who offers the walking meditation in the
Yes.
field, in a garden, where you take off your shoes and you feel the dirt, the soil, and the energy of Mother Earth comes up and recharges. And I remember the person who channels Kuan Yin, my friend Lee Lizak, talks about through, Kuan Yin says through her, take your shoes off, go to the park and stand on the dirt. And so it's the same concept, really.
And the reason they're telling you to take your shoes off is because typical soles are made out of rubber. And rubber soles prevent energy from entering within your body and exiting out of your body. So you're literally putting the rubber sole is literally like a blocker from that. If you notice, Native Americans and Indigenous Americans, they'll wear deer skin, and they'll wear things that don't have rubber on it. The leather is fine, again, it's of the earth, right? It's the rubber. So that's why they say, take off your shoes.
It's a beautiful thing to feel that soil. And often in the fall, I've done that. I've sat on a bench because it's pretty cool. And I've taken my shoes off and just felt the energy.
Yes.
It's wonderful. Have you said enough about your response to my question before I go on to something else?
I think at this stage I have. And if anybody has other questions, they can always inquire. I'd be happy to answer.
Okay. So my next inquiry is, how do you integrate ancient tradition and modern wellness practice?
So indigenous knowledge is ancient tradition.
Yes.
And modern practices would just be incorporating it now. So as simple as the fact that we respect all nature, we believe that all nature is energy and all nature is life. And so I don't take without asking permission. I don't take without giving back. So I always keep a pouch of tobacco with me. And when I decide that I want some cedar or whatever I'm picking, or a flower in the case, I ask permission of that plant to give its life, because that's what it's literally giving. It's giving its life. And then I give back that which I take. I place something else back that is of me. And in this respect, it's tobacco. And then the fact that that is a symbiotic relationship. I don't take more than I need. I ask permission and I give it back. We've been doing that since the beginning of time, but then what happened is this sense of entitlement that came with the humans. And sense of entitlement, well, I'll just take it. I don't need to ask permission. I'll take more than I need. That way I don't have to be bothered with going back later on. Let alone, who are you impacting that you're taking so much you're taking away from someone else that could be using, what's giving its life in order to take more than what we need. All things are life, all things, plants are life also, and we don't appreciate that, and we just trounce on it, and we have those rubber soles on, and we're on our way, and we're busy, and we can't be bothered, and we're thinking, and we're one direction and only one direction, and there we are. And when we talk about ancient practices, I mean, if you read anything of that which already existed, the traditions have already shared that way. If you ever sat down with any elder to understand and appreciate what their life has been and what they've seen in their life and what they want to pass down, because not every tradition is written. So here in Africa, and I'm in Angola, It's oral traditions, and things are passed down orally. So they're passed down by storytelling, and they're passed down by stories. And if you don't sit down, listen, stay still, and engage your elders, you will not know a thing. The same with the indigenous there on Turtle Island, which is the United States, and that's how the Native Americans and Native Canadians refer to the United States as Turtle Island, because it was their island first. And as they engage the practices of what their ancestors knew and how to grow, why are teepees the way that they are? What do they represent? How do we respect it and honor it? I learned drum making from my grandmother elder. What is that medicine? Did you know that it was medicine? How do we honor that medicine? How is it an extension of us? All of that, the answers are right there. They're there in the teachings. But how we approach those teachings, how we respect those teachings, it's on each one of us. I know that there are times when people get angry, they're like, you cannot sell the teachings. The teachings are passed down to us orally, traditionally, and they're not to be sold. They're not to be capitalized on. They're there for everyone. And we've forgotten what universal truth is. It is available for everyone. Mm-hmm. It is not just available for me and Linda. Sorry, too bad. Can't give that to you unless you pay me. That's not how we work. We teach, we share, we raise the vibration, and we respect. First and above all, we respect. And so any traditions that you learn, anything that you bring through or that comes through those who stood before you, just need to be respected, and then practice. And yes, it's okay to have that discussion that says, well, you know, right now we're 2025, and when it was practiced in 1979 or 70s or whatever the case is for the person, these were the circumstances, you know, and have that discussion with your elder and putting it to practice. And here's the thoughts around and surrounding it and why it was placed what it is. You know, people do a lot of things blindly without asking questions. That's another very, very important thing. Stop doing things blindly and question everything. Mm-hmm. You know, it's that old age story that in Thanksgiving, you know, here it is that the turkey is cut a certain way, and it's and you know, you never question why it was cut a certain way, and then you finally go back and you ask your grandmother, why did you cut the turkey a certain way? Because it couldn't fit in the pan. You know, you have to ask. So I think that is, yeah.
Asking is so important. Asking the questions, and it reminds me of the genius of childhood. Why is this? What is this? The curiosity and the belief that many things are possible, in a sense, maybe all things are possible, until they get clamped down, right? Because there's the spiritual saying and belief that all is possible at all times in the present moment, because that's where the action is, in the present moment, right here, right now. This is where it is.
Well, if you think about it, what are the limitations that are in your way except that which is self-imposed?
We put blocks, we stand in our own way. It's been said so many times, yet I think it can go unnoticed because we're so busy. I had Ralph White on my show, and he was talking about, he was the co-founder of the Open Center in New York City, which closed, and now he's beginning a new place, the New Center, New York. And he said he was born in Wales, and he saw the industrial society pollute and wreck the beautiful earth.
Yes. Yes.
So
yes,
there's a lot to be questioned. And someone else said to me, I forget who it is, I've been talking to so many people, you ask the questions, you keep asking, and that's how you become aware, and wise.
Exactly.
Now, with that said, we have just a few minutes before we have another break. When we come back, Enolia, I would like to know, and I want our listeners to hear. We know that you are a thought leader, an award-winning keynote speaker, a global influencer. I want to hear a little bit about that journey when we come back. Okay, listeners, we're taking a break now. I do believe we are taking a break. Oh, I have a note from the engineer. The program crashed. 1 second. Technology is what it is.
Yes, it is.
It's important to have a sense of humor.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on TALKRADIO.NYC, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on TalkRadio.NYC.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marsanico with my guest, Enolia Harris Pedro. Enolia, please tell us about the journey to all these wonderful roles that you have associated with you as a thought leader, award-winning keynote speaker, global influencer. Please share.
Well, it's so funny. It's almost like the same journey that I took as I went on my spirituality. It kind of went hand in hand with it. When I retired from my computer designing computer networks job, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to start my own business, and starting entrepreneurial isn't always easy. Everybody thinks, oh, I'll just do my own business, not a big deal, but it is a big deal, And so there I was. I had moved from New York to California, and here I am in the middle of California. I don't really know anyone, and I wanted to start this business. So it's like, okay, what kind of business do I want to start? Well, you know what? I've learned the lesson in life. I wanted to be in business with that which I love. And so I didn't have a box to put myself in. But what I did is I laid out the characteristics of everything that I love and the characteristics of everything that I don't ever want to do again. I never wanted to be in anybody's cubicle again. Okay. I didn't want to ever put on another business suit if I could afford myself that opportunity. Like, not because I have to, because I choose to. Okay. And so, in looking at the characteristics I love, I am a person who is a Jane of all trades, right? I am good at a lot of things. I may not be the best at everything, but I love horseback riding. I love canoeing. I love this. I scuba dive. I this, I that, the other. I love all of these different things. So what I did is I looked at that and I was like, okay, where can I get to do these things? When can I get to do these things? How can I get to choose to do these things? I said, you know what? I'm good at speaking. I'm good at oration. I'm good at making people feel good and lifting themselves up. I'd worked with one of my grandmothers to really frame up the type of coaching that I wanted to do. And she had been a women's empowerment coach for 40 years. So under her tutelage, I was able to create my own program. And what I loved about her was that she didn't have me take from her. She had me develop my own through how she developed her own. And so what I did is I called up like 12 of my friends and I'm like, I want to do different workshops. Some are make your own drum because I can do empowerment through the fact that we're going through this iteration of drum making and ceremony. I wanted to do just having a conversation of personal development. I had all of these different things that I wanted to do. And so I called up 12 of my friends. Will you hold space for me? Will you just invite your friends? Let me just do it this way. And in doing that, that ended up being 22 states and 4 countries later in that first year. And
your friends brought you into those cities and those countries. What a
Yeah.
way to network, Enolia. Brilliant.
Yeah, I was like blown away. And then word of mouth started going around. And then people started calling me. Well, I heard that you spoke, my friend such and such. And it was my network. It was truly my network. Yes, I advertised. Yes, I shared. And yes, I pushed, but not like the way people do when they're seriously marketing and pulling together a marketing budget and all of that stuff. And so I started getting requests. And the requests weren't just coming from the United States. The requests were coming from various different countries. So I got a request out of New Zealand. I got a request out of Australia. Okay, I'll go. I got a request out of Amsterdam in Belgium. Okay, that sounds great to me. I got a request out of South America. And then I was like, that list that I talked about of things that I like to do, well, how do I get to do them? I'm going to hold a retreat. And on the retreat, the extracurricular activities are going to be horseback riding. They're going to be, all of the various things that I love to do.
Yeah.
And so here I am in the middle of Tulum teaching empowerment to a group of people who are here for 7 days. And every other day we get to do something we love that I love. And I was like, yeah, this works. This really, really works. So what ended up happening is that after doing this for 7 or 8 years, people really knew, and the people were meeting me and really knew the work that I did and really knew that I uplifted. So it was honestly some of my retreat members that basically said, hey, I'm holding X, Y, and Z program. I remember a beautiful woman named Chloe out of France, and she's like, I belong to this women's group, and we're having a really big deal, and I'd love to invite you as a keynote speaker. And I'm like, okay, you're speaking to a bunch of entrepreneurs, but I want the spirituality and I want the upliftment. Not a problem. We did it. I met this beautiful, beautiful woman in Nepal through G100. I belonged to G100 spirituality group for a period of time. And through this beautiful woman, she invited me for an award in Nepal. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I went for that. And while I was there, 3 different schools asked me to engage with them, a high school and 2 elementary schools. So I went and I spoke to 500 high school students and talked about how they were the gift. And that it doesn't matter what walk of life that they come from, that the gift that they had within, whether it was drawing, speaking, singing, whatever it is that they possess, is what's going to be needed in this world and what they should bring front and center, and don't ever lose it. That they are the gifts, not what they can be or what they can do, but they themselves are the precious cargo that we need in order to carry us through and navigate us through the future. So from there, somebody would hear my speaking. I ended up in India, and here I am I ended up speaking with 3 different schools or 4 different schools in India. And so then this youth empowerment piece came into play. I started holding speaking events because I wanted to give wave to platforms for people who had something to say but couldn't find a proper location to say it. And so I partnered with a dear, dear friend of mine, and we held speaking engagements. and we did it quarterly, 4 times a year. And we created a particular topic that we wanted to speak on, and then we would open and close and keynote for our own platform. And so it just grew. It grew into this. And it's interesting because I'm actually now working with a dear friend of mine launching a radio station. So for women's voices to reign.
I think I saw something like that on Vision F Freak's website. I saw it
It was
somewhere, maybe on your website.
It's on my website.
Oh,
It's
okay.
called Woombology. Woombology is the name of it. And I asked you to go through Enolia.live to find it until I secure my domain name, which GoDaddy is holding me hostage. And that's another story. And Woombology is the platform to give women voices to speak. They lead. It's not that men can't come. Men can come as a guest on any one of the shows that we have as a guest, but the women lead. And then I love the fact that the retreats I still do. I'm doing a retreat to Egypt. We start off in Cairo, we go to Giza, and then we go to Aswan, and we go up the Nile River to Luxor, and we come back to Cairo and engage in it's a spiritual journey. It's not a tourist journey. I don't do tourist journeys. And then the fact that I meet all of these grandmothers and grandfathers, I met this wonderful, wonderful young man. His name is Devesh Rikisoon, and we are doing a retreat in India, in Rishikesh, right by the Ganga River. And for those who don't know what Rishikesh, India is, it's the yoga capital of the world. So anyone who does yoga knows about Rishikesh. But the beautiful journey that we're going to provide is that I'm an indigenous shamanic practitioner, and he comes from the Hindu perspective of energy healing. And so the beauty that two different modalities can coexist in one retreat, and how we're going to be approaching it in two different ways. And we've worked together before, and I think it's going to be really, really powerful.
It sounds powerful. Yes. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And your journey has been organic.
It's been organic. And, you know, I always tell people, dream a beautiful dreamer, you will be dreamt. And what I mean by that is that if you don't hold a vision for yourself of all of the things that you want to do, how you want to go after them, and how you want to organize them to engage others into it, then you will live your life running around fulfilling what people think you should be doing. And that's not how I wanted to live my life after doing the corporate thing, because the corporate thing was purposeful, right? And that's what we're groomed for, and that's what we're taught. But to be a thought leader, to be a retreat leader, to coach, to improve people's lives, to gather people together, to engage them, to help them be inspired or lift them up. That's the heart of what I love. And that I wanted to do on my terms.
Yes. It's a beautiful energy, Enolia. It's strongly leading with the feminine principle of creativity. But balance, because we're not just the feminine energy, men are not just the masculine energy. The journey is to come to the middle so that we can act from our full repertoire of possibility.
Exactly. Absolutely. Men are our partners. It doesn't work without them.
Of course
not.
Not.
And one doesn't need to consume the other. One needs to walk mutually in respect and balance with the other.
That's a wonderful way to live. That's what it's all about. And when we come back, let's talk more about that, because it's really the way we need to be focused. We need to be developing and growing and finding love within. And that leads to being in the middle, not yes or no or right and wrong, but to be fully powerful. You think of the prayer position, many religions or spiritual people have this, and it's right in front of the heart, and it's in the middle of both poles, so to speak. So when we come back, let's talk more about that, walking with respect with our partners. So listeners, we are going to take a break. Do come back for more exciting conversation on the A Train to Sedona.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on TalkRadio.NYC, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on TalkRadio.NYC.
Hi, I'm Linda Marcanico. The A Train to Sedona is a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. It's also the name of my new broadcast on Wednesdays at 12 noon. When we are spiritual, we embrace possibilities and ideas, which strengthen our mind, body, spirit, health, and wisdom. On the A Train to Sedona broadcast, I plan to interview guests who embrace these expansive practices. Join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon on Talk Radio New York City.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the A Train to Sedona broadcast. I'm Linda Marcanico with my guest, Enolia Harris Pedro, and we're talking about walking with our partners. Enolia, will you start us off?
So I was talking about the fact that we have this idea a lot of times that when we partner with someone, when we get married, when we make that commitment, that you have to lose yourself in that being one. And I subscribe that I personally, this is not the reflection of anyone else's thoughts or anything else like that, but I have always been taught throughout my family lineage that that's walking in balance with someone. What does that mean? You know, we get this idea that we make a commitment to one another. And, you know, what are you balancing? You're balancing love and you're balancing freedom. You're balancing the fact that, yes, I have free time and I have freedom to do with the things that I want to do, but I want to share my life with someone. That's the key word, share, right? So if somebody doesn't want to give you enough freedom, then you feel what? All consumed, right? You feel stuck. You feel like possessed, you know? But then if somebody doesn't love you and they never care where you are and they never worry about where you are, then you feel like, well, goodness, you couldn't, you know, show me that you cared a little bit. So we find that happy what? That happy center. You don't want to be possessed, but you don't want to be just let go, you know, without any regard. So you find that happy medium. The same thing with love, right? We don't want to be so consumed with love that we feel like, oh my God, I'm smothered. I feel like I can't breathe, you know, but on the same token, we don't want to, you know, feel like we're not loved enough and like, oh my goodness, they couldn't care less about what I do. You don't show love. You don't care. You don't even inquire, you know? So there's a balance that takes place between our love and there's a balance that takes place between our freedom when we come together as a couple. So why is it many people think that, okay, I own you. You're my partner now, and you have to do what I say. You have to do and then it's almost like an ownership type of thing, right? Because I invite you in my life doesn't mean I have to consume you with jealousies, consume you with insecurities, consume you with this is the expectations I have, and you have to meet every single one of them because I have them, because you've committed to me, you know. And it goes the other way around. We are not pieces of property to be owned. We are not pieces of property to be told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, so on and so forth. Now, this is in a worldwide discussion, very, very different from many cultures. Okay? Because in some cultures, women are brought up, especially just to be able to be that subservient role in terms of cooking, cleaning, making sure the house is taken care of, such and such and such a thing. But I use subservient under the Western terms, because on the Eastern terms and other terms, it's not subservient. That's just the role. We look at it from a Western point of view as subservient because there are other things that we could be expressing, our intelligence, our this and our that and the other, you know. So I say, take it from where you are. What does balance mean for you? For the countries that the woman is groomed for that certain role, the refreshing thing for them is to just have the conversation that there are other roles for them to play, that there are other roles that they can actually engage in and still have a partnership and not feel all consumed. For us in the US and Europe and whatnot, it's okay, I express my freedom, I express who I am as an individual, and I can walk side by side in mutual respect with my partner and meet them halfway. There are things I don't like that he likes. There are things he likes that I don't like. But we, because we respect one another, meet in that middle. So I always have to make sure that I express that because that worldview is quite different from many points of view.
Yes, and we need to be respectful of
Yes.
culture and tradition and choice, and
Yes.
not superimpose, as many cultures of dominance have done, to
Yes.
impose their values on another group. So it's important for us to be respectful of women's choices, of men's choices. And you said something very important, the wombology, and I had been on your website and I had seen that, to invite the men in, for partnership, for creativity, for balance.
And for conversation, and the reason that it says where women's voices reign is because the balance is sometimes now our perspective needs to be seen.
Yes.
Our perspective needs to lead and be discussed. It's not that we don't respect the voice of the men. I think it's very important, but our perspective needs to be understood clearly, and you can't have that conversation unless you're leading it.
It's time for the Western world, anyway, for whoever wishes to move in that direction, to have, for the female voice to be heard, for the feminine principle to be expressed, so that we can move toward balance in ourselves, in our relationships, in our cities and countries, in the continents, in the world, really.
Yes.
The view is really an important view.
Yes. And you can't groom one without the other. Everything has to be hand in hand. If I put all my focus on just the woman, then the man's like, well, where are you coming from? There's a gap, because they don't understand the perspective. They don't understand why. They don't understand the importance, So if we can have a conversation, an open conversation, then what happens is that you may not agree with it, you may not like it, but you respect it and you understand the perspective in which it's coming from.
Listening, learning are very important.
Very.
As you said, we don't always agree with someone, but to agree to disagree, to compromise where we can realize how much we're really the same after we can get past those bumps.
Yes.
So I wanted to ask you about youth advocacy. You were talking about speaking to high schoolers and saying you are the gift. They are our future. And the kids coming in. I have 6 grandchildren, and the kids are so smart and so evolved.
Yes, they are.
Oh my goodness, it's just going. Tell me about youth advocacy.
Well, first of all, the kids that are coming in are extremely smart, so we have to stop undermining them, and we have to stop suppressing their intelligence, okay? And instead of being intimidated by their intelligence and by basically saying, oh, that doesn't exist, or oh, that's not true, or oh, blah, 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 which is easy to just matter-of-factly just disregard what's being said, we need to take pause. We need to take pause, and we need to learn from our children as much as our children are learning from us. So youth advocacy to me is to be able to give them a platform to express themselves and to understand the perspective by which they've learned, the perspective by which they're speaking from their heart's desire. Because sometimes what it is that we hadn't done the due diligence and they have. And as they learn, anything in in relationship is there's a reciprocity that's taking place. There is a give and a take.
Mhm.
It is not give, 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 and take, take, take. No, it's an equal exchange. So we need to have that equal exchange. So, you know, on my platform, I love to speak with youth leaders. On my platform, or when I'm engaged with speaking, I listen to the questions. The questions are quite intelligent. And then, you know, as a parent, don't be afraid to find the right counselor and say, okay, my son and I are having these problems, or my daughter and I are having these problems, and we're missing the communications. Can we break this down to a point where I understand where they're coming from and they understand where I'm coming from? So there's a mutual respect. We're willing to do it with our partners. We're willing to do it with those that we married. So then why wouldn't we do it with our own children? You know, and the other thing too is they're coming in gifted. So energy plays a part in a lot of children's gifts. And when they're saying they're seeing something or experiencing something, we can't be dismissive. We need to find the right people to help understand and disseminate what's taking place in their lives. Because I also work with children as it pertains to energy too. So these things are extremely important.
Absolutely. Your work is so wide and rich. And I'm so excited that you've been my guest and we've collaborated. How can people find you, Enolia?
They can find everything that I'm doing on Enolia, ENOLIA.live. That holds the retreats, that holds my workshops, that holds my coaching. I am on YouTube under Enolia Energy and the Infinite Way podcast. I am on Facebook and Instagram also. But if you really want to know where I am and what I'm doing, all roads start from Enolia.live and then lead to Vision Afrique Development or the partnerships that I'm in, or Wombology also. If you're interested in being a radio host or you have a monologue that you want to share, I'm more than open to listen and invite those people who are interested. And yeah, that's the plethora of information.
Wonderful. Is there anything you'd like to say to your listeners before we close?
You know, we are the lighthouses. Those of us who stand and want to beam the beauty and the joy in the midst of chaos. Chaos is taking place all around us. Are you choosing to be the light in the midst of the chaos so that people can come out of the storm and then be that light? Or are you part of the chaos? My choosing is to be that light in the midst of the chaos. Provide a sacred space and a safe space where people feel that they can actually come to peace and be at rest and away from fear and away from worry. We need it more now than ever all over the world. So I invite you to be the lighthouse. I invite you to be the beacon of light that shows that there is a place of peace, a place of calm, a place where it is held in integrity, that you can just be. You don't have to be something, you just be. And let that serve as the ripple effect that expands out through the rest of the world. And for those who want to come out of the storm, they will see your light and they will come out themselves. You can't force it on anyone. All you can do is be. So it is my hope that as you stand, you emanate. And as you emanate, you create. And as you create, you are.
Thank you for that, Enolia. Listeners, thank you for listening. Next week, my guest will be Deepak Saini, and he and I are going to be talking about wanting to live to 100 and a bit more. So tune in. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.